Some live visuals that are now coming in. I'm told these are the helicopter visuals of Donald Trump, US President, who is landing in Davos or for the Davos summit. This is where his speech in a short while from now is something that the entire world is waiting for. Donald Trump is set to speech after the stage has been set by the likes of French President Emmanuel Macron. Even Canadian Prime Minister Carney's speech has been doing the rounds, talking about how rules-based order seems to be just a canard that is now crumbling. But there is a growing Europe versus US fight that is brewing on the issue of Greenland, on the issue of Trump's support to NATO or otherwise, and on the issue of tariffs, which Trump is now slapping on many countries in every passing day. So these are visuals of Trump landing in Davos. He had a bit of a late arrival because his Air Force One had to go back to US after mid-flight and then had to fly out again due to certain technical issues as far as his Air Force One is concerned. But now this is the Marine One helicopter that has touched down in Davos. So what can be expected as far as this speech is concerned? In about half an hour's time from now, Donald Trump will be speaking. As I said, this is a speech the entire world is waiting for because this standoffish position between US and NATO countries, US and Western European countries is something that is now overshadowing everything that is transpiring at Davos. There are, of course, other battles that US is fighting. There is one with Russia, there is Iran, there is China, and even India has not been spared as far as this entire global tariff is concerned. So lots that people are expecting to hear from him. But as I mentioned, what is especially of interest as far as this story is concerned is the fact that European nations have very candidly talked about how they are not going to bow down to US President Donald Trump and his ways. They have talked about that this is not the kind of treatment that they will take from America, and that they've even sent signals to the effect that they can look at other places, other countries, they can look elsewhere if America continues to play truant on the issue of mixing geopolitical interests with economic policies like tariffs. And that is something that has become a hallmark of Donald Trump now, where his geopolitical interests, according to him, that are important, are being mixed with tariff policies. In fact, that very tariff policy in itself is under jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in the United States. We've been waiting for that judgment, whether even these tariffs are legal according to the Supreme Court in US to begin with. My colleague Zaka Jacob is joining us with more on this. Zaka, this is a speech that the entire world is waiting for.
Oh, absolutely. Not least because of the timing in which this speech is going to come, because this is the biggest friction point that we've seen between Europe and America in the last 1 year, that's since Trump came back to the White House. There have been other serious differences as well. You were talking about the tariffs, the Russia-Ukraine war, which has all now been relegated to the sidelines because Trump is unabashedly made known to the world that he wants to conquer Greenland, which is Danish territory. It's part of the Kingdom of Denmark. It's been the case for the last 300 years. And he has unabashedly, almost nakedly gone ahead and said that he's going to take it either the easy way or the hard way. So meaning either he will do it militarily or he will simply outright purchase Greenland. Remember, America had made an attempt to purchase Greenland way back in the 1800s when they offered, I think, $100 million in gold. Again, when Harry Truman was the president, again, they offered $100 million to acquire Greenland, but Greenland was not up for sale. In fact, I had spoken to a minister in Greenland just yesterday, and she said, we're a small country in terms of the number of people, about 50,000 odd people. 95% of him want to have nothing to do with America. They don't want to join America. So this whole rationale that Trump has provided, which is that America needs Greenland for security reasons. She said, there is already a military pact between Denmark and the United States. It was signed in 1951, basis which at one point of time, America had more than 15 military bases in Greenland at one point of time when the Cold War was at its peak. Today, it has just one space station, space base really. It's called the Pacific Space Base. It's up in the northwest of Greenland. Everything else has been shut down because once the Cold War wound down, there was no need for America to spend so much money and have so many military bases and personnel out there in Greenland. So they wound up all of those 15 plus bases. One space base is left there, the Pacific Station. So clearly this rationale of, there are Russian and Chinese ships off the coast of Greenland and we need it for national security reasons simply doesn't add up. I think the simple reason why Trump wants Greenland is because it's a territorial conquest. He wants to take America back to the 18th and 19th centuries. He wants to be remembered like Thomas Jefferson or James A. Polk or presidents of the 18th and 19th centuries who basically went on these conquests or purchases. Much of modern-day United States was purchased either from the British or from the French or from the Mexicans. Modern-day California, for example, was purchased after the Mexican Cession. So I think Trump wants to be remembered as the first president, certainly after the Second World War, who expanded American territory, who conquered new land and then planted the red, white, and blue there. So I think that's his motivation. He's looking at the history books. But the problem is, for the first time in the last 1 year, you're beginning to see Europe push back against Trump. You saw that with the Danish Prime Minister, Frederiksen. You saw that yesterday in the speech by Emmanuel Macron at Davos at the World Economic Forum. And you also saw that in Mark Carney's speech. A lot of people are praising Mark Carney because now the shoe is on the other foot. After Greenland, where do you think he's going to turn his sights to? He's going to turn it to Canada. He's been saying for a number of months now, since he came back to office, Canada should become the 51st state. Why? Because he wants to territorially expand the United States. And I think Trump, particularly in the last few weeks, ever since this whole abduction of Maduro happened, where I don't think even he expected that it would happen so quickly, that a sitting president was just picked up and thrown, like he was thrown in the back of a truck. He was thrown in the back of a ship and brought back to the US to face the American justice system. So I think Trump is basically telling Europe, telling the rest of the world that there is a new sheriff in town, that there are new rules that people have to play by. So he's basically taking America and the rest of the world back to an imperial era, like a 19th century era before World War I. And I think the rest of the world has to push back against it, certainly, but also has to find a way around it. And I think you're beginning to see the semblance of the first pushback against Trump from Europe. You'll hear more European leaders today and tomorrow, and you will hear that sense of, we're not living in a monarchy anymore. We're not, kowtowing to kings anymore. You will hear that. As far as Trump's speech is concerned, it's going to be, a superlative advertisement. All right, he's just come out, I believe. Yeah, we can see the pictures of him coming out. He's flown via chopper. He landed in Zurich about an hour ago, and he's flown via chopper to Davos. I'm given to understand his scheduled time for the speech was 7 p.m. Looks like he'll make it for the speech at 7 p.m. There was one other engagement that he had prior to the speech, but looks like that's been cancelled. There was a lot of drama with Air Force One as well. It took off. It went through, I think, almost halfway through the Atlantic, and there was a glitch that happened. They had to sort of bring it back, and then he had to change planes. So I believe he's now on what is, loosely referred to as Air Force 2, but it's more like a military aircraft and less like a commercial one. So he's landed there in Davos. He's going to make that speech. We're expecting that to be on schedule at 7 p.m. India time. And his speech is going to be entirely like this superlative advertisement for what he has achieved in the last 1 year. He says this is the best presidency that America has ever had. He said, before getting on board Air Force One, America is the hottest country right now. We inherited a mess, but right now the whole world wants to come and invest in America and want to build in America. I mean, he can say whatever he wants. The fact of the matter is, the rest of the world seems to have sort of moved on from America, or certainly giving primacy to America in the global order. You look at China, for example. They just released their trade figures a few days ago. China today is sitting on a $1 trillion trade surplus. That's just monies that they have made by selling to the rest of the world. I mean, it's unbelievable. Actually, it's become make China great again rather than make America great again, because the rest of the world has basically said, if he's going to put all of these tariffs and if he's going to make products expensive, if he's going to make America a difficult market to sell in, then we'll just go to other places. And I think that's what's happened in the last year.